The universe has a way of setting things right. It moves like a silent force, balancing every action, returning every intention to its sender. Those who scatter thorns in your path will one day walk barefoot on a road of their own making. They thought they were writing your downfall, but fate had other plans that turned their own schemes against them. Every hidden hand that tried to pull you down was unknowingly pushing you forward. Every whisper behind your back was a silent drumbeat leading you to your next victory. That's the irony they never saw coming. They wanted to see you fail, yet here you are, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. The more they tried to dim your light, the more it burned through the darkness. Because when you're chosen, you don't just survive the attacks, you rise because of them. They wanted to be the storm that drowned you, but you became the ocean that swallowed them whole. That's the power of being chosen. It haunts them, keeps them restless, makes them watch your every move with envy disguised as hate. They can't figure out why everything they throw at you makes you more powerful, but deep down, they fear the answer, because it was never in their hands to decide your fate. This isn't random. This is what happens when you're chosen. The moment you expose them, they scatter like shadows before the light, desperate to escape the truth they can no longer control. But only the chosen ones will truly understand this. Others won't believe it, because they could never live it. Stay with me till the end, because what happens next will change everything. Number 1, stop letting manipulators. Hide, force them into the light. They spent their lives hiding in the shadows, crafting an illusion so convincing that even they started to believe it. They built their world on manipulation, deception, and careful misdirection, thinking they were untouchable. But when you exposed them, you did the one thing they were never prepared for. You dragged them into the light. And now they're scrambling, panicking, desperately trying to regain control. People like them aren't afraid of the truth itself. They're afraid of what the truth demands from them. Accountability is their worst nightmare, because their entire existence depends on avoiding it. They aren't just lying for convenience, they need those lies to survive. Without secrecy, without control over the narrative, they are powerless. The moment you strip away their mask, they don't just lose their influence, they lose themselves. For years, maybe even decades, they thrived in an environment where no one questioned them, where their words shaped reality, where their manipulations went unnoticed, and where they could twist the facts to always come out clean. But now they don't get to explain their actions on their terms. Now they don't get to rewrite the script to make themselves look like the victim. You took away their ability to control how the world sees them, and that's why they're spiraling. And here's the irony: they thought they were untouchable, but the moment you called them out, they crumbled like a house of cards. Because the truth isn't something they know how to fight. They've only ever won by deception, and now, stripped of their usual tactics, they have no idea how to survive in a world where honesty is the only currency. This is why they panic. This is why they lash out. This is why they run. They will deny, they will gaslight, they will play the victim, all in a desperate attempt to regain control. But what they don't realize is that the moment they start scrambling, they confirm everything you exposed about them. A person with nothing to hide doesn't panic when questioned. A person who stands on truth doesn't fear exposure. But them, they built their entire identity on avoiding the truth. So when it finally caught up with them, they had no choice but to collapse under its weight. And that's what truly terrifies them. Not just being exposed, but being seen for who they really are. Because deep down, they were never as strong as they pretended to be. Their power was never real, it only existed in the dark, where no one could challenge it. But now, the light has found them, and once the truth is out, there's no running back into the shadows. The game is over. And yet, they will still try. They will try to twist the story, try to make you look like the villain, try to make people doubt what they've seen with their own eyes. But it won't work, not anymore, because you hold the one thing they've never been able to control, the truth. And in the end, the truth always wins. Number 2, never let power-hungry liars control the truth. Power is the only thing keeping them afloat. It's not truth, not integrity, just control. And when you expose them, you don't just reveal their lies, you rip control straight from their hands. That's why they're not just scared, they're terrified. Not of the truth itself, but of the moment they can no longer control how people see them. For them, deception isn't just a tactic, it's everything. Their entire existence is built on manipulating perception, shaping opinions, and staying one step ahead of the truth. They don't care about right or wrong, only about maintaining the illusion that they are in control. And as long as they can convince people they're the good guy, they win. That's why they panic when the truth breaks free, because once people stop believing them, they lose everything. They've spent years mastering the art of illusion, knowing most people never question what they see on the surface. They knew how to spin the story, twist the facts, and bury the evidence just deep enough to stay untouchable. But when you came along, that all changed. You pulled the curtain back, and now they're spiraling. Because without the ability to control the story, they have nothing left. And this is when they become dangerous. Their first instinct isn't remorse, it's damage control. They won't admit, they won't reflect, they won't change. Instead, they will deny, attack, discredit, and manipulate. They will say you are the problem. They will paint you as the villain. They will do anything to keep their crumbling illusion alive, even if it means burning everything down in the process. But what they don't realize is that their panic is their confession. The harder they fight to twist the truth, the clearer it becomes that they are terrified of it. They think they're outsmarting the world, but in reality, every desperate move exposes them further. The more they try to regain control, the more obvious it becomes they were never in control to begin with. And now they are at war with reality itself. They will claw, they will scramble, but the truth doesn't bend for cowards. No matter how loudly they shout, no matter how hard they fight, they can never rewrite the one thing they fear most. The truth is no longer in their hands. Number 3, watch out. Their desperation will be their downfall. The moment you expose them, something shifts. You don't just reveal what they did, you strip them of the illusion of control. And that's when their survival mode kicks in. But here's the thing, survival mode isn't calculated. It isn't strategic. It's raw, desperate, and reckless. And that's where they make their biggest mistakes. When the truth hits them, their mind doesn't think ahead, it spirals. Instead of carefully crafting a way out, they react on instinct, and instinct betrays them. They lash out, attack, deny anything to create chaos, and shift attention away from the truth. They hope that if they make enough noise, people will forget what they've seen. But the louder they scream, the more obvious their guilt becomes. Some will try to rewrite reality, gaslighting everyone around them, acting as if the truth doesn't exist. They'll deny the undeniable, twist facts, and hope that sheer force of will can erase the evidence. Others will scramble, contradicting their own words, saying one thing today and the opposite tomorrow, forgetting that people are watching closely. And the worst ones? They will double down on the lie so hard that they end up exposing themselves even further, digging a grave so deep there's no climbing out. They think panic is invisible, that if they just move fast enough, no one will notice their desperation. But panic is the loudest confession of all. Watch their hands deleting messages, removing posts, backtracking on statements they swore by just yesterday. They don't realize that in these moments, their actions are screaming louder than anything you could ever say. And that's the irony of exposure. The cover-up is always worse than the crime. People may not even fully understand what they did at first, but they recognize fear. Fear is a signal, and when someone is desperate to bury something, it only makes the world more curious. The harder they run, the clearer it becomes that they have something to hide. But here's where you, the chosen one, have the advantage. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to say a word. Let them dig their own hole. Let them self-destruct under the weight of their own lies. Because nothing confirms guilt more than someone running from the truth they swore didn't exist. Number 4, expose them. Loud enough, and they'll have nowhere to run. They don't fear you. They fear the moment they can no longer control the crowd. One-on-one, they know how to manipulate. They know how to twist words, play the victim, and rewrite history in their favor. But when the truth spreads beyond their reach, that's when their nightmare begins. You see, their power was never real, it was borrowed. It only existed because people believed in the illusion they created. As long as they could shape opinions, distort facts, and drown out the truth with noise, they were safe. But once you expose them in front of too many eyes, their ability to deceive crumbles like a sandcastle in a storm. At first, they'll try to contain the damage. They'll discredit you, call you jealous, unstable, or obsessed. They'll flood the conversation with distractions, hoping people will lose interest. But what they don't realize is that the moment doubt spreads, it multiplies. People who once defended them start questioning everything. And when the masses turn, there's nothing left to protect them. A politician doesn't fear the scandal itself. They fear the voters walking away. A celebrity doesn't fear being exposed. They fear losing the admiration that feeds their ego. A corrupt executive isn't scared of morality. They're terrified of what happens when the stock price crashes and the investors pull out. Their true nightmare isn't being caught, it's losing control. Because here's the truth: a single voice can be silenced, but a movement cannot. A lie can be defended, but a collapsing narrative is impossible to hold together. The second people start seeing them for what they really are, the power they once held over them dissolves. That's why they're desperate. That's why they panic. That's why they will do anything to make sure the exposure doesn't go further than you. But it's too late. You weren't just one person calling them out. You were the trigger that set off a chain reaction. And once the masses wake up, there's no putting them back to sleep. They spent their whole life mastering deception. But the one thing they could never prepare for was truth in numbers. And now, they're running, because they know once the people turn, there's no coming back. Number 5, take away their followers, and you take away their strength. They built their power on deception, not truth. Their strength was never in facts, logic, or integrity. it was in numbers. They didn't need to be right. They just needed enough blind followers to defend them without question. A carefully crafted illusion, propped up by people who never dared to think for themselves. But when you exposed them, you did something far more dangerous than just revealing the truth. You planted the seed of doubt. Doubt is the one thing they can't afford, because doubt spreads like wildfire. It starts small. One person hesitates, one person questions, one person wonders, what if it's true? And then the cracks begin to form. Another follower steps back, then another, and before they even realize it, the walls of blind loyalty start to crumble. The herd that once protected them, now it's shrinking, and that's why they're running. Not because of what you exposed, but because they see the shift happening before their eyes. They've seen how this game works. They've played it themselves. They've watched others rise and fall based on public support. And now, for the first time, they're the ones losing it. They know how quickly loyalty can collapse, how fast the tides can turn, and how brutal the fall is when the illusion shatters. They will do anything to stop it. They will lie, manipulate, distract, throw every trick they have at the problem to keep their followers from waking up. But it's already too late. Once the spell is broken, there's no putting it back together. They know that the second enough people walk away, it's over. That's why they don't just deny. They don't just defend. They flee. Because the greatest fear of those who built their power on deception isn't exposure itself. It's losing control over the people who kept them untouchable. And now, as the truth spreads, they're watching their army dissolve, their influence vanish, and their carefully constructed world fall apart in real time. And the best part? There's nothing they can do to stop it, because once a person sees the truth, they can never be blind again. Number 6. Silence isn't innocence. It's a strategy to fool you. Silence isn't innocence. It's a strategy. When you expose them, don't expect an immediate fight. Some will lash out, some will try to twist the story, but the most calculating ones, they vanish. Not out of shame, not because they're reflecting, but because they think silence is their way out. They aren't overwhelmed by guilt, they're plotting their next move. They disappear, waiting for the storm to pass, hoping that people will forget. And here's the dangerous part. It works, at least for a while. People have short attention spans. Scandals trend today and disappear tomorrow. They know this. They're betting on the fact that the world moves too fast for the truth to stick. But what they don't realize is that they're playing a game they can't win. Because silence isn't just a pause, it's a confession in disguise. When they refuse to defend themselves, when they ghost the world instead of speaking up, what does that really say? To the blind, it may seem like nothing. But to the chosen ones, to those who see beyond the illusion, it's clear as day. They have no defense. They are waiting not for justice, but for distraction. They hope another scandal comes along, something bigger, something louder, so people stop looking at them. But this isn't the past. This isn't a time where truth can be buried with silence. We live in an era where nothing stays hidden for long. Digital footprints don't vanish. Screenshots don't lie. Receipts don't burn. And the longer they stay silent, the more their guilt grows. What they once used as a shield now turns into a weapon against them. And here's the irony. They think staying quiet will keep people from talking, but all it does is make people dig deeper. The silence makes them suspicious. The absence makes them question. The void of explanation is filled with speculation, and speculation turns into belief. Suddenly, People aren't just wondering if they did it, they're convinced they did. They thought they could hide. They thought their silence would make the truth disappear. But instead, it became the loudest confession they could ever make. Because in a world where truth spreads like wildfire, silence isn't protection, it's proof. And the chosen ones, we see it all. Number 7. Never trust those who value image over integrity. The moment you expose them, they aren't thinking about truth, growth, or redemption. Their first thought is, how do I keep them believing in the lie? Because for them, reputation has always mattered more than morality. They never cared about being good, only about looking good. Their power wasn't built on integrity, but on illusion. And now that illusion is cracking. They won't admit guilt because in their mind, guilt equals weakness. They've spent their whole life crafting an image of perfection, an untouchable persona that shields them from consequences. So when the truth threatens to expose them, they do what they've always done: lie, manipulate, and shift the blame. They don't fix the damage, they try to repaint the wreckage. Watch how they react. They won't apologize, not truly. Instead, they'll twist the story, play the victim, or gaslight those who call them out. Maybe they'll blame stress, misinformation, or even you for misinterpreting things. Maybe they'll issue a vague, empty statement like mistakes were made, carefully crafted to sound remorseful while taking zero responsibility. And the worst part, it often works. People love a redemption arc. If they spin the narrative just right, they can make the exposure seem like just a misunderstanding. They'll act like they've learned, changed, grown, while staying exactly the same. It's the ultimate manipulation tactic. Rebrand the downfall as a comeback without ever doing the work. But here's the truth they fear the most. You're chosen. You see through the act. You're not like the masses, blindly accepting the next PR stunt or fake apology. You know that someone who truly wants redemption doesn't need to spin a story. They own their mistakes and make real changes. And that's exactly why they fear you. Because when you expose them, it's not just about what they did. It's about revealing who they've always been. And that is something they can't spin, edit, or escape. No matter how hard they fight to maintain their image, one thing remains. The truth doesn't need a PR team. Number 8. The moment they panic, know that more lies are coming. They aren't just panicking because you exposed one truth. No, their real fear is much deeper than that. What keeps them up at night isn't just the revelation, it's the terrifying question, what else do you know? Because people like them never have just one secret. Their entire existence is built on layers of deception, one lie covering another, each thread carefully woven to create an illusion of control. And the moment you pull that first thread, everything they've worked so hard to conceal starts to unravel. This is why their reaction is so extreme. This is why they lash out, why they deny everything even when caught red-handed, why they attack you instead of defending themselves. They aren't just trying to shut down the truth. You exposed, they are in full survival mode, desperately trying to keep the rest of their dirty secrets from surfacing, because they know how this works. They've seen it happen to others. Once doubt creeps in, it spreads like wildfire. The moment people realize they've been lied to once, they start questioning everything. Old rumors suddenly don't seem so crazy. Past denials lose credibility. Every suspicious moment that was once overlooked now gets a second look. And that's what terrifies them. They know that if people keep digging, they won't just find one skeleton in the closet, they'll find a graveyard. They fear the domino effect. The first revelation is just a crack in the dam, and once that dam breaks, everything comes flooding out. That's why they go into full-blown panic mode, trying to gaslight, discredit, and destroy you before too many people listen. It's never just about one truth. It's about preventing the collapse of an entire empire built on lies. And that's what makes you dangerous to them. Not just because you exposed something, but because you hold the power to expose more. Your very existence is a threat because they don't know what you'll reveal next. The uncertainty eats at them, haunts them, keeps them running in circles, trying to control a narrative that's already slipping through their fingers. But it's too late. Once the truth starts leaking, there's no stopping the flood. And deep down, they know it's only a matter of time before everything they tried to bury rises to the surface. And when that moment comes, there will be no escape. Number 9. When they can't escape, they'll try to destroy you instead. The moment you expose them, they don't fight the truth, they fight you. Because to them, the truth was never the real threat. You were. If you had stayed silent, if you had let them keep their illusion intact, they wouldn't be scrambling right now. But you spoke. You pulled back the curtain. And now their entire world is collapsing. Taking accountability, that's not in their nature. They don't know how to own their mistakes because they've spent their whole lives avoiding them. So instead, they do what they've always done, shift the blame, rewrite the story, and turn you into the villain. If they can't erase the truth, they'll try to erase you. At first, they'll be subtle, whispers behind your back, little rumors designed to make people doubt you. They'll try to poison your reputation, painting you as bitter, jealous, or unstable. And when that's not enough, they'll go deeper. They'll twist your past, pull out anything they can use against you, even things that have nothing to do with the truth you exposed. Because their goal isn't to prove their innocence, it's to make people stop believing you. And if that doesn't work, they escalate. Smear campaigns, intimidation, threats. They'll dig into your life, drag you through the mud, and make sure the world focuses on the chaos instead of the truth. Because they know people are easily distracted. If they create enough noise, plant enough doubt, and stir up enough controversy, most people won't care about what was actually exposed. They'll be too caught up in the drama. That's why they fight so hard. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about control. And for them, destroying you is just another way to hold on to their power. But what they don't realize is that this too is proof of their guilt. The innocent don't need destruction as a defense. The strong don't fear exposure. But them, the moment they choose retaliation over redemption, they expose themselves more than you ever could. And here's where they make their biggest mistake. They think attacking you will bury the truth. But in reality, every move they make only confirms it. They aren't just fighting for their reputation, they're fighting for survival. Because they know, deep down, they've already lost. Number 10. Beware. Some fear losing admiration. More than losing freedom. For some people, admiration isn't just a desire, it's their lifeline. They don't chase money, power, or freedom the way ordinary people do. No, what they crave is something deeper, something more intoxicating. Worship. Their entire existence revolves around how they are seen, how they are praised, how others validate their illusion of greatness. And when you expose them, You don't just threaten their reputation, you rip apart the fragile illusion that holds their entire identity together. That's why they panic. That's why they fight harder for public redemption than they do for actual innocence. They don't care about the truth, they care about perception. They would rather lose millions than lose their audience, because to them, money is replaceable. But admiration, that's their oxygen. Without it, they feel like nothing. And that's their greatest fear, not the exposure itself, not the truth coming to light, but the moment people stop looking at them with admiration and start seeing them for what they really are. And yet, even after they've been exposed, they refuse to disappear. Why? Because they can't survive in silence. They rebrand, they reshape the story, they manipulate their downfall into a redemption arc. They know the world loves a comeback story, and they'll do anything to sell themselves as the misunderstood hero instead of the deceiver they truly are. They'll fake growth, fake apologies, fake change, because in their mind, it's not about being better, it's about convincing people they've changed, just enough to get their power back. But here's what they never understand. Once the illusion is broken, it's never the same. Even if they regain followers, even if they manipulate their way back into the spotlight, they are forever haunted by doubt. They will always be chasing admiration instead of owning it. They will always feel the weight of those who see through their act. And that is the greatest punishment of all. Because when you expose someone like this, you take away the thing they fear, losing the most their control over how they are perceived. They will never escape the truth. No matter how many times they try to reappear, no matter how desperately they fight to be adored again, they will always know deep down. They are being watched, they are being questioned, and the illusion they once controlled is now controlling them. Number 11. The faster they run, the guiltier. They are don't be fooled. The moment the truth hits, watch who runs first. Not everyone reacts the same. Some stay calm, some try to reason, some even deny. But the ones who flee the fastest, the ones who panic, scramble, and lash out with wild accusations, those are the ones with the most to hide. Because guilt is impatient. It doesn't sit still. It doesn't stay quiet. It moves, it overreacts, and it exposes itself in ways the guilty never intended. You've seen it before. The second they're confronted, they vanish, shutting down accounts, cutting ties, disappearing into thin air, as if that alone can erase what they did. Others go into full-blown attack mode, flipping the script, playing the victim, trying to paint you as the villain. Some will scream their innocence so aggressively, so dramatically, that it only makes them look more suspicious. Why? Because deep down, they know they're guilty, and they know the walls are closing in. A truly innocent person doesn't need to run. They don't need to delete messages, wipe evidence, or suddenly pretend they don't know you. They don't have to twist the story, drag others into the fire, or burn every bridge in a single night. When the truth is on your side, you let it speak. You don't need to silence people. You don't need to hide. But guilty people, they know the truth won't save them, so they do the only thing they can run. And here's the irony. The very act of running confirms everything they swore wasn't true. Their desperation is their confession. They think disappearing will erase their sins, but all it does is prove what you already knew. Someone who has nothing to hide doesn't run. Someone who is innocent doesn't panic. The ones who scatter the fastest, the ones who scream the loudest, the ones who fight the hardest to flip the blame, those are the ones who fear the truth the most. They aren't running from you. They're running from the reality they can no longer control. So, next time someone is exposed, don't just listen to their words, watch how fast they move. Because sometimes the biggest confession isn't spoken, it's in how desperately they try to escape. And this is where it all comes full circle. They thought they could rewrite reality, that they could manipulate, silence, and deceive their way out. But truth isn't something that disappears, it lingers, it builds. And when the time is right, it destroys. They can run, they can fight, but in the end, they will always lose. Because the chosen ones don't just survive the lies, we outlast them. If this resonated with you, don't stop here. Like the video, subscribe, and stay locked in, because the truth always finds its way. And when it does, we'll be ready.